the Taiwanese associations have been founded, I think, between the 60s and 70s worldwide. That was at a time when Taiwan was under the dictator of Kuomintang and the martial law region. And at that time, the Taiwanese people were not allowed to have voting rights, and they don't have, they didn't enjoy democracy like today, and there was no freedom of media or party or association whatsoever. And the people, if they want to have any change, then they were put into jails. So the Taiwanese people who went to overseas, they try to establish the Taiwanese associations. What they were thinking is they would like to push for the democracy in Taiwan. They want to promote the freedoms of speech, freedom of education, freedom of party, and so on. So that was the beginning of our associations. And after several organizations have already established, they try to build up the umbrella, like the American Taiwanese Associations and the European Federation of Taiwanese Associations. And then at the end, they found the World Federation of Taiwanese Associations, for which I am present in now. And as I said, at that time, it was when we were doing that, when our members were doing that, that was very dangerous. Many of them have been put to jail or even murdered. And for a very long time, they were not allowed to go back to Taiwan either. They didn't see their parents, they didn't see their country. They spent all their life in the foreign country. What they want to have is to do their work for the generations to come. And that's why we can enjoy the democracy right now, and we are really thankful. Yeah, and we are still doing that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So that was a very, very long lobbying advocacy effort of civil society people from Taiwan fighting for democracy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you compare nowadays, 2023, Taiwan with Europe, what would you say in principle, how is that compared? Is it comparable?
You mean the political system?
Political system, yes.
Yes, I would say, yeah, the political system, now we have, I think our political system is not really different than in Germany or in other European Union countries. And perhaps I can say that as an example, if you look at our book in the law schools, we almost accept everything from Germany. The German laws, the German theories, the law theories, they were all from Germany. The German law is actually a very important export product for Asian countries. And of course, it doesn't mean that they were implemented it, but after this long struggle, Taiwan nowadays really enjoys one of the most modern and democratic system in the Asia.
Yeah. What is occupying Taiwanese people in 2023, apart from the threat of China? What's in the mind of people? What's important for them? The average Taiwanese, do you know that? Or
maybe I will let the both.
I would say Chinese threat might not be the main concern of the Taiwanese people. Yeah. And I actually think that Taiwan people is not really fear for this before this threat, but actually they're living, for example, the egg prices, and so yeah, it's actually not the main concern of Taiwan.
Okay, thank you. Now I have a question that goes in the direction of Sandy. How was there a lot of discussion about the interview of Macron in France, or was it more in other countries? Because in other countries, many people spoke about it. How was it in France?
I think, of course, people in France discuss about what Macron has said already previously, because you all know that internally in France, we have already a very tough situation about the retirement reform. So there is already a lot of tension. Plus, he's saying during his flight back from China to France, already the situation is not very intelligent. I would say any mature president will not give a speech during the flight. Yeah, so people, or maybe the people in my surroundings are a bit different because they are familiar with me. We talk about geopolitics quite often. My colleagues, my neighbors, or even the people I met during my trip. I was on holiday during this time when Macron gave his speech in the flight. I would say people do discuss about it, probably a different concern from the other European countries, because what President Macron says doesn't represent to all of the Europeans' thought. Also for the French, let's take it a bit backwards, because I think all of my Taiwanese friends has a concern about the French will.
Wait. Someone has a microphone on. Okay.
So people were more afraid of that the French-Taiwanese relationship has been improved quite a lot for the past 2 years. Yeah, and then with this sudden speech interview, that it gives us a chance, and then give I would say the door openers for the Chinese government to think that they might come and have a chance to militarily taken over Taiwan. So that was the worries of the Taiwanese people, and also my friends in Europe. So we want to know what happens in France. But as soon as President Macron gave this speech, actually it gave us more power of speech, give us more exposure of media, and all of the French political parties, no matter if it's across all the parties, they all come out and speak for Taiwan, speaks for their worries and concerns that we give the wrong information to China, that we don't support Taiwan, that we will not support democracy. I think we need to see things a bit at a higher level. It's a diplomatic situation that in English we say action speaks louder than words. That was an interview. Then we have to see it in reality that last week the French Parliament has been to Taiwan. They are visiting Taiwan. Last week also, about like 10 days ago, 16 Taiwanese legislators came to visit France. Next week, there will be French senators going to Taiwan. Mm-hmm. So the actual, I will say, exchange still goes on. So I think it's the concrete side, the practical side that we need to take into account. As long as all the other countries stands behind Taiwan, we continue the relationship, the exchange, the conversation together, despite of the threats of China, because it can be true that because I'm going back to Taiwan for visit next month, then people was asking, are you going back? You know, it's dangerous. The Chinese military flights take a flight over the Taiwan medium line, like 50 flights per day at least. You know, So the Chinese military threat is every day. We are kind of used to that, but it's not right.
But now it became something that people talk about in Europe, right? And before, nobody really knew about it.
So in the one hand, it's also good that President Macron actually reveals this Pandora box that previously we don't even talk about it. Oh, most of people, I agree. It's like President Chirac in 2019 says no to America that France is not going to participate in a war in Iraq. We are not going to participate in this. So I would say,
please.
The French people also agrees with what he says, that we are not going to send our militaries yet to places that why we should go for a war, what for? And I think the French people in general, the populations don't want to send forces to Africa, to some other countries. I can understand. But in the end, they have to defend also their interest in Indo-Pacific, because the French, they have French territories there. So Taiwan has a strategic geopolitical position there. So it's not like President Macron says that we are not going to represent and then take part into the crisis, which we don't feel part of, and it's not true. If Taiwan has any, I would say, instabilities, that will impact all the industries in the world, the automotives in Europe, the defenses in Europe, all the high technologies, you will be having a shortage in your factories.
Microchips, most of them in the world are done in Taiwan.
We have monopoly.
There is a question of Dorin Hell wants to say something, please. Dorin.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I would like to ask Wilhelmina something, because she said that Taiwanese people are not concerned about the threat coming from China. And I mean, we saw already what happened to Hong Kong, because China didn't accept it, that another part of China have another system like a democratic one. So I don't know, I have been born in a communist country in Romania, and I know what means living in a non-democratic country. I think it's not a joke, and if it's happened and China takes over Taiwan and implements all the system, it's a matter of generation, and even the young people should be more concerned. So that's why I don't know. I mean, yes, I know, or we as a normal citizen are rather occupied or concerned about our daily businesses, but this is a quite serious situation, or at least what I see. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, maybe I should correct my statement before. I mean that Taiwanese people in Taiwan, they are actually not that fear about the situation, because actually the flights are every day, so they actually get used to it. But this is actually not the good thing to be for Taiwanese people. They actually need to be aware of the situation, and also we as Taiwanese abroad in Europe, we all are very concerned about the situation, and so we are here and we want to say that please ensure that Taiwan are in a security.
Maybe if I may add something.
Please.
When Mina said that the people really don't fear anything, I think it's not meant, she doesn't mean that the people are different or indifferent about this issue. On the contrary, I think that is in our under our conscience that it's very big threat. But in this situation, you need to do the best for you. Yeah, you not just get used to it, but you need to live with it. You need to live how to prepare it. Yeah, like for example, we have since I think last year we have from the civil society, we have built up a school. It's called Kuma Academy, and it's training the people, the citizens, how to prepare for the war and how to prepare during the war. to be able to survive and to be able to adapt to the situation. And they are also teaching the people how to defend themselves. And I think this kind of and their courses, their classes, their courses are always booked within minutes. So I think the people they know the threat, they would like to prepare for it, but we don't let this threat to like to press us, like to dominate our daily life. I think that's the message.
Thank you. Sandy, you wanted to say something?
You are mute.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I want to also echo to what Mina is saying, because I think Taiwanese people kind of, I would say, naive. Actually, we have been in war for a long time. We live in an info war. You know, previously for the past 3 years, we had a war of a pandemic. So we changed our lifestyle. But long before that, Chinese government has already done a great job in the info war. And also, not long ago, last month, we had to hold a conference in France with the French journalist from AFP in China, Pey-Fen Fuh, and with the French Senator André Gadolan to talk about the ingérence de la Chine en Europe, which means the influence of the Chinese in Europe, how they interfered your political decision or economic decisions by the recruit of the allied scholars in schools and also in UN, all the UN heads. You know, it's incredible. If you start to dig out of that, you will see how powerful they are in the info war. And I think a lot of Taiwanese people are living in a peaceful, I would say, and democratic environment for long. We feel comfortable, we are confident, and gradually we have lost this kind of awareness that the war is there and it's everyday brainwash you, and they try to tell the Taiwanese people, no matter what you do, don't irritate China, otherwise we will attack you. So a lot of elderlies, they will tell us, don't insist on the sovereignties, because the Chinese will get angry, then they will bomb us, then you will go to war. So no parents will like their kids to go into a battle. So that gives us, you know, this kind of attitude that, oh, we want a peaceful war, so we should not say something that China doesn't want to hear.
Sounds familiar for me, like some country in Europe.
Yes, so we don't piss off somebody, otherwise they will overreact. Somehow it's true because they are not rational, but this is also something that from our generation we have to think of. The kids, they have never been through, like Doreen says, they didn't know what it is like living in a country without freedom. They are born in the country, like now today we can vote since we are little. We don't like Macron's or any government policy, we can go in the street. And I just can't imagine that those Hong Kongese young kids have lost their life for what they believe. They just want to have a better life.
That's why your point about the information war is so important. I mean, that's also something you're aware in Europe, that there is a hybrid war going on with a lot of information that is spread in the media, in social media, that is not really proper information. Patricia Pan. Patricia Pan, you raised your hand.
You are muted.
Yeah, we can see you. So
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Patricia. I live in Germany. I'm a Taiwanese. Just a quick response to what Doreen asked before. Like Mina said, I think people in Taiwan are just getting numb about the military threat from China, because people need to understand the flights over the median line, if it's happening, if not every day, every week, for 30, 40 years already. So we live under this kind of threat for so long. We try to put it behind our, in the back of our mind. And you can say that Taiwanese are in denial of the actual danger that face them. But if think about it, if you live in this kind of situation, would you like to think about it and talk about it every day? No, people choose to go on with their normal life and think about trivial things to take their worries away from this kind of threat from China. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Francesco, please.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question, but I think there is also a comment on the chat before me. So maybe we can go to the comment.
Okay, wait, sorry. Are there any conditions in which Taiwan would declare its independence? Taiwan is independent, isn't it? It was never dependent on China. You explained that, I think, in detail.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider the Taiwan under the international law context, Taiwan has its own government, Taiwan has its own sovereignty, Taiwan has their people, Taiwan has its land. So it fulfilled every criteria of a country, and it's also independent. But if you noticed, our official name is still Republic of China. That's our so-called official name, that's which is brought by the Chinese Kuomintang. And I think a lot of Taiwanese people, they would like to get rid of this name, but they cannot do that. And if we are now talking about independence, maybe the more correct term is to be a normal country and recognized by the others. I think it's the point of that. Yeah, we are independent indeed, but we are not recognized internationally, and that's why what pains us. Yeah, and if you want to talk about the conditions, I always say it's I think the only reason we cannot declare the so-called independence is because, or why the other country don't recognize us, is because the threat of China. Yeah. If the threat of China will go away, and I think no country will deny Taiwan anymore. Yeah. And the government in Taiwan also tried not to provoke China. Yeah, because I mean the threat of war is not trivial. Yeah, it's a threat. But let's say what we are doing now is we are building these conditions. I think every country who gains their independence, or the country which can declare to be a normal country, is because they have already fought for a very long time. Some countries have fought for many hundred years. Yeah, let's think about Lithuania, yeah, for example, or the other country in the Baltic. And I think for the Taiwanese people now, the most important thing is to keep up fighting, to fight for the democracy, to fight for our way of life, and to build this condition to say loud our voices and as loudly as possible, and to let the people understand why that is so important for us and for the war. And I think that's what we are doing now. And I hope really that some days that more people can understand that, and some people will more like van der Leyen or more like Baerbock, they will say it also loud. Yeah, we need to support a democracy. We need to support a country like Taiwan. And I think that day, then we will have a condition to declare Taiwan to be a normal country.
Thank you. Francesco.
So I wanted to say, first of all, that I agree with what was said, that Macron had a paradoxical impact, that everybody is speaking about Taiwan. So I also saw yesterday on France 2, your ambassador speaking in the Quatre Vérités. But I also see in the press, you may have seen, if you're in France, Le Nouvel Observateur 2 or 3 weeks ago, basically saying that they consider as for granted that there will be a war. So the people say, we don't know when, but there will be one. And so I wanted to ask you, how do you see this? So how do you see these views? How do you see these reactions? Do you also think that it's for granted that one day there will be a war?
Yeah, if may I start again. I think the war is really taking its shape, yeah. Or like Sandy already pointed it out, we are already in war. The war of the war today is not like you use weapon, yeah, and to shoot someone, each other. So the war is now we call it hybrid war. It's a war of different styles. I think also in Ukraine, you can see that, you can understand that long time ago, the Russian government has already tried to send out a lot of disinformation, a lot of like provocation or like intimidation, like Taiwan currently is facing. And I think, luckily or sadly, I think the Ukraine situation has, has a little bit, I don't want to say help, but I think if it was not for Ukraine, we might be attacked already. Yeah, and because of Ukrainian people who are so bravely fighting, and because of the European country or the United States who are so strongly supporting them, and they are united, and they have united their all their powers to support Ukraine. I think because of that, China is now they cannot make this decision very easily, and that also prevented China from doing more. And but I cannot say whether it will be a war or not. I cannot predict that. But we are already in war, in some kind of war, and I don't want to think whether it will be a war or not. We are preparing, and that's what we can do. And yeah.
Nina, do you want to say something, or may I?
Yes, please.
I agree with Pei-Fen that actually the Taiwanese, we are already in the war situation, and the best thing to avoid a hot war in an old school, in an old way, is that we get ourselves prepared so that they know how much they will suffer if they decided to attack Taiwan. There will be a cost, there will be something to pay, and everybody will suffer together. And I think Ukraine has demonstrated for all of us, even if the war is not happening in our country, we will be impacted. So tomorrow, in a few years, if there is hot war going on in Taiwan Strait, that will impact everyone on Earth. So nobody will be free from the collateral damage of that. So I think we are peaceful people. Taiwanese has been, ruled by different government through the years, through centuries. We want to be our own owners, the auto-determinations. Let the Taiwanese be Taiwanese. I agree with One China policy. They can exercise whatever they want. Is their people's choice. We Taiwanese have decided on which way we want to live, and we decide who we want to make friends with. And I hope the Europeans, the French, Germans, or the other European countries can also be free of fear to make friends with Taiwan and to support Taiwan. So the war, like Francisco is saying, I think a lot, I'm not an expert, but a lot of scholars did a simulation saying that because of a strategic supply of semiconductors, so we try to move away the plants to US, also to Europe, so that one day when Taiwan has no more value, no more interest of semiconductors, then that's a time for China to attack Taiwan. That will take maybe a couple of years. They estimated in 2026, 2027, that will be the time they attacked Taiwan. But really, do we really want this to happen? We still have a couple of years to go. And I think we know what they want. The Chinese intention is very clear. So before we reach that step, we can do something.
Isn't it that the Chinese intention is to rule the whole world and not only to gain Taiwan?
I'm not Chinese, so I don't want to be pretentious to say that I know what they think, but that's for sure. They want to invade Taiwan. We can know that, and they say that, they declare that. I think because of, I don't know, historical reasons, that either is too lack of a self-esteem, or because of historical reasons, they have this kind of hatred. I really don't like it. I think we are peaceful people. Taiwan is very diplomat. We are very hospitable. And with Chinese, I will say, as a huge and powerful neighbor, we do a lot of exchange, economic and business relationship with them. But I can feel that they want to be the leader of the global leader hegemony. I will say it's not even leader, because the leader has responsibility on their shoulders to protect everyone, to lift everyone to a higher level. This is so-called the leadership. But from what they are doing, I don't see a leadership in this government. I see that they oppress their own people. So I don't really believe that if somebody don't respect already, somebody is a treasure for them. They even killed, look at the Tiananmen massacre. They can even roll over the best intellectuals in their countries.
Yeah.
How would you expect them to respect anything? It's not a country which respects the laws. So I wouldn't believe in anything they say. I'm probably too extreme. I'm not objective. I have a biased opinion. So I try to be most, I would say, distant also from my personal.
Wilhelmina, I understand you very well. I'm coming from Germany, and that is a country where people were thinking we should make business with Russia. And we have seen what is the outcome if you are too naive. So I have a good understanding, or I can follow you very well with what you're saying. Now we have Jürgen Kahl, and then also Daphne Gugu. Jürgen Kahl, bitte. Maybe
Daphne is muted.
Jürgen Kahl.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes.
Perfect.
Oh, very good. Okay. I have a question for the Taiwan participants. Sandy repeatedly said, "we Taiwanese." That sounds as if there was a unified position in Taiwan on how to deal with mainland China. But when you look at the political class in Taiwan, it's pretty different and confusing because the positions are split. Look, for example, at recent events. Ma Ying-jeou, he went to China, you know, to honor his ancestors, as he said, and but he said, we all are sons and daughters of the Yellow Emperor.
Which is not true, which is
we
not,
are all, we are all Chinese. And at the same time, Tsai Ing-wen, she went to the US and met, to the rage of Beijing, the Speaker of the US Congress. Why, this is a question, why do you think, isn't it possible for both parties, the Kuomintang and the Minjiandang, or the Democratic Progress Party, to find to a joint position in this question of the very existence of Taiwan?
who wants to answer?
Thank you.
One of us, or should we give it to the?
Yes, please. Yes, please. The question was to one of the Taiwanese participants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I will start again. And yeah, yes, Taiwan is divided. And as you can also see in the Ukraine, yeah, if you see, you look at every country, there are always divided positions. And this situation is only stronger in some countries because of social media, because of the disinformation, because of the fake news, and so on. But Taiwan is indeed, we have divided a point of view, of course. When I was saying that I was educated as a Chinese, I'm not joking, and I represented, I think, most part of Taiwanese people who is my age or even younger. And that is kind of brainwash too. We were educated as Chinese, and we always read Chinese history and so on and so on. And I can say when I was in the school, I never read anything about the rivers in my neighborhood. I didn't know which river in Taiwan is the longest, but I can tell you every rivers in China and every Eisenbahn, the railways, how they will be put in China. I can tell you everything about China because that was my education. So a lot of people in my age or even older, they are still thinking they are Chinese, and but maybe I can give you some statistic. I think that it's the Zhengda University. They have been doing a survey all these years, over some decades, and you can see the identities, the building of this Taiwanese identity is growing, and it's growing, and sometimes it's like this way, but it's with a tendency towards a Taiwanese identity. So, of course, we are divided, and can we reach some consensus? Yes, I think so. I think no matter you are Taiwanese, you are Aboriginal people, or you have ancestors from China, everyone in Taiwan, we would like to live in peace, and we would like to live in the way we are living right now. That which is the freedom of speech, freedom of education, freedom of to have organizations, to have
rule of law,
free
justice.
election and the
Yeah.
rule of war, all these disputes. I think that's the way of life in Taiwan right now, and we all want to hold out these principles for ourselves and for our generation to come. And I think that's what will unite us. And no matter how it's cold, yeah, that's what we should hold on. And I think also the most of Taiwanese people will agree with me.
Yes, if I can add it something in my generation, actually in the younger generation, it's actually natural independent in Taiwan. So we think ourselves as Taiwanese, and we will not say I am a Chinese or something. It's no way. So in this point, and actually the majority of Taiwanese people think ourselves as Taiwanese, and when we go abroad, we will say I'm Taiwanese, not the Chinese. So this is one point, and the point before that if the China want to rule the world, I think if I can add something to this point, that in China there are actually some inside problem and Chinese instability. So they want to use the threat of Taiwan to put the instability maybe by side. Yes. So maybe to rule the world is not, it's maybe one reason for China, but there might also other reason for China to invade Taiwan. And yes, and also what Pey-Fen said before, Taiwan is actually in a war. So Taiwanese people all want to do something to avoid this. And this is also something that the world needs to be aware of, because if it comes to a really hot war, it will impact all of us.
Thank you, Wilhelmina. I think there is one point in the discussion in the media. A lot of times it is described as if the Chinese policy is very long-term, very well thought through, very engineering, something great, and so on, rooted in history, and so on and so on. Nobody talks about the fights and the problems within China, the suppression of the people, all of these things. That's not in the media. So, and I think that is part of this hybrid war that is happening, where we are manipulated to think about this Chinese system, not about the downside, not about the people who are in concentration camps, and so on and so on. That reminds me of Russia, where the war against Ukraine has a function to keep the person or the people in power. That's the only reason why they are running this war. But Daphne Guru, you wanted to say something, please.
Good afternoon for all, and many thanks for organizing this this event. So I'm a lawyer. I'm working in European Commission in Brussels. So I have been working with Taiwanese people for a long period. I have been there negotiating sensitive issues. So I think it's a very difficult moment for Taiwanese friends, and in particular for the authorities there to deal and take decision. So I have first question concerning the reaction of youth, of young people, how they react, what is the first feeling, because Taiwan make a huge effort. It's a democratic country. They are open, they are working, they have cooperation or exchange, business exchange with several countries in the region. So what is the reaction of all this aggressivity, how the people perceive this? And my second question concerns the regional dimension. Do you think that Hong Kong and this let's say escalation of violence in countries, in areas like Hong Kong will be kind of message threatening the impact of all these recent activities for the mainland, how the people react in Taiwan. This is really important to take into consideration the impact and the feeling of the normal people in Taiwan, not only the authorities, but the normal people, and in particular the young people.
Thank you, Daphne. Who wants to answer?
Reaction to what? You mean toward the China's aggression or the young people?
Yes, first the young people, and then if there is further reflection about the regional situation, this escalation, and how you perceive this escalation.
I'm not sure what I understand, but I try to say something. If I don't answer your question, please remind me again. I think the young people, like Mina just mentioned, I think we have, it's difficult to say generally how the young people will react, but I think the most young people, they have already identified themselves from the very beginning on. They are Taiwanese, and they need to protect their country, and they need to fight for their freedom. But of course, this generation hasn't there hasn't experienced the period before that, which is dominated by martial law and the dictatorship. They have different experiences. And sometimes I'm really, really surprised how they will stand up for themselves. Like, I think a very famous one is the sunflower movement. That was like 8 years ago, I think. And of course, these people have already grown up. But I mean, before them, there were always young people who have participated in different social movements. And I think this social movement, because of this participation in the social movement, they also united these people. They also teach these people how to protect their rights and for the freedom and for the free expression. And I think I cannot say how today the young generation is, but if we see the whole history, I mean, the people who founded our association was very young. That was their 20s and 30s. And the people after them is also there. And that it's a movement from generation to generation. And if that can answer part of your question, I think there were always a certain numbers of young generation, the young people, they were, if they have learned from history, from the books, from what they have, and if they were be able to reach out to see what they can see, to choose what they would like to do, and there were always a certain number of young people who were joining this revolution or social movement. And of course, there are some people, they are very indifferent. They were always young, also every time looking into their mobile phone or something like that. But I think I am always very positively surprised that there are still so many young people who are willing to sacrifice their free time to join this movement. If I may say, we are organizing now an event, a conference in Vilnius, in Lithuania, in September. Please welcome to visit our Facebook site. You will see our event. And most of our team members are very young. And like our founders once were, yeah. And I think that it's the continuance and what carried us forward. And to your question about Hong Kong and the regional, I think Taiwan was one of the countries who really support Hong Kong very strongly. And we have, I think at that time when the Hong Kong people were fighting for their rights, in Taiwan, we have a lot of events going on and supporting them. And I think no problem or no crisis will be isolated. They will all link one to another. I mean, at that time, Taiwan was also facing an election, and we were very afraid of that the pro-China party will win. But due to the this movement in Hong Kong, this revolution in Hong Kong, a lot of people woke up. They saw what China could do with their so-called own people, yeah. And they saw the situation, and they turned to support Taiwan and turned to support the other party, which is not pro-China. I think that is perhaps is an aspect I can offer for you to see how the problem or this situation will link to each other.
Okay, thank you, Pey-Fen. I just want to remind you, maybe try to stick to the 2 minutes so we have more people have the possibility to say something, to ask something, make a comment. So, but allow me, I have a question. That whole discussion linked with Macron had also to do with the so-called European sovereignty. And from the outside view, looking to Europe, this European sovereignty, is that something where you think that is going to impress China? Does it play a role? Is that something that is even known for you, or is that something totally irrelevant, and relevant is France, United Kingdom, stuff like that? How do you look at that? If I can ask our Taiwanese friends.
Should we take the ground, or someone from Taiwan, maybe Xiaobing, or I see that there were Jessica and there were some others. I don't know if someone wants to take, or Hsueh.
Someone should please say something about it. That would be nice.
If not, I will continue my 2 minutes.
Yeah, but you know, you are so close to Macron, to the Macron issue, because you live in Paris.
No.
But it's
I'm
okay.
not fair enough.
Right.
I would say from the business point of view, I think I have lived in Europe for more than 20 years. I love
traveled in different places. I know. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I love this continent is with so many diversities, but it's also true that if we want to take it into an economic weight, that China today, I think they values more the relationship or with US. So this is why Europe, to act like a whole, it's important to have some leverage. But unfortunately, I would have to say that it's a very good idea to have, well, from my point of view, it's not all the point of view of the French, I would say, to have this European Union, because we make a decision, then the French will say that why we are making a decision that we pay for the tax for this European organization, and the investment is going to some other countries, made profitable for the other foreign countries. It's not the French who will benefit from it, because it's true that today I don't how many European countries within this European organization. I also think that when President Macron says European has to have its own strategy, I would like to hear what does he propose in concrete. Otherwise it will stay on a very high level. We want it to be done and then nothing translated into tactics. How do we make it happen?
Yeah. Patricia wanted to say something.
Yeah, about this European sovereignty, I want to ask how you define this. And also, from an outsider's point of view, I wonder how united European Union is. Having seen the bickering and infighting of the European, among the member states of European Union, I think the European sovereignty is a very good idea, but in whether it's practical or not, I'm not sure, because Macron went to China with von der Leyen, and they came back from China with very different tones and opinions. So, yeah, that's my response.
Yes, thank you, Francois. Francesco, sorry.
Hey, sorry, I thought there was a Francois. No, I wanted to say two things. The first one is that there are European politicians who have been taking very different views from Macron. And I think for me, the two which have been the strongest have been Ursula von der Leyen and Joseph Borrell. They represent European federal, the European federal level. So the European federal level is much more aware of the importance of making sure that Europe sticks to its own principles. It's also clear that if we are not able to have a strong voice in the world, it will be much easier for our enemies to divide ourselves. The second thing I would say is I work at the European Central Bank, even if I'm not speaking as ECB today. The money you have and you use every day is federal money. And it is European sovereign money. Because it is federal, because it is issued at the European level, and it is sovereign because the decisions on our money are taken by us. It's us who do the good or the bad. It's us who take the decisions on the interest rates. It's us who influence the economy. Then people will say, we did right or did wrong, but it's the same. It's true for the Fed in the United States. It's true for the Central Bank of China in Peking. So I think it must be clear that European sovereignty in some respect exists. And then, of course, we have to be judged on whether we are doing it right or wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco. Jürgen Karl.
Yeah, okay, I'd like to add something. I don't think that Macron is an isolated, has an isolated view and different from all the others in Europe, that he is a lonely voice. I don't think so, because if you actually look at what European politicians say, apart from the European Parliament, that's very cautious. Let's, for example, take the recent visit of the German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock to Beijing. She gave a strong warning against invading Taiwan and against a forceful reunion. But what she left out was a question what Germany and all the other countries in the European Union would do if China actually does invade Taiwan. And what Francesco just said, the strong position of the EU Commission and von der Leyen, I also would like to add something. It has not been reported widely in German language papers that the EU Commission decided recently not to negotiate a bilateral investment agreement with Taiwan. So if something, the bilateral investment agreement with Taiwan is actually strongly supported by the EU Parliament, but it didn't get the support of the Commission. Why is that? So actually, what is the European Union going to do if the worst happens? Thank you.
Thank you, Herr Karl. Sie müssten die Hand noch runternehmen, bitte.
Ja, mach ich.
Haben wir hier bessere Ordnung. Okay, so Pey-Fen, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I think the European sovereignty, I'm over it. I think I would like to see a good European policy. But as I said in our open letter to Macron, the sovereignty is very good, but the sovereignty must have a purpose. If the sovereignty is not to protect the people's right, what is the sovereignty for?
So,
And
that is the interesting question, why we do that whole meeting here today. This European sovereignty, would that be different from the sovereignty from any other country?
yes,
Or should that stick to the principles of European Union, which are about freedom, rule of law, human rights, and so on and so on?
Yeah.
Is that, could it be something different?
I think in Taiwan, at least I can say from Taiwan and maybe also some Asian people who I know, we all look up to Europe, or we come to Europe because we have admired what European people have achieved in culture, in their history, in the wonderful series they have already built up, the books, the big thinkers, and all these wonderful ideas, this wonderful society, ideology. And I think that's what attracted us to come to Europe. And I'm one for them, because I don't want to go to the United States because my English is very poor. And so I want to learn the new language, and I like the way of the European people live. So that's why we come here. But what we saw here is likely is actually a little bit, I would say some of the ideas what attracted us are still there, but some of them are like to break away. So I'm really wondering, well, so what we all see now today, what Macron say, I mean, I think the few days ago, von der Leyen just said that how important the democracy will be and how they should support Taiwan or support this idea and to beware of China and so on and so on. Then in a few days after that, then Macron gave this interview. And that's what it's always made me very sad, because when I see one side that the European people, they are really deep thinking and they have wonderful culture and a wonderful philosophy, everything. And then on the other hand, there was always somebody like this, they will use this chance when the Europe is united for some idea, and there was always some part that will break away. I mean, Germany has done that before either too, yeah, like Schroeder or.
Pey-Fen, couldn't the model of, or couldn't be what the Taiwanese people have done, getting organized in the situation where Kuomintang was ruling as a dictatorship in the country, citizens got together, organized themselves in associations, got together with their fellow citizens living abroad in other countries, not in Taiwan, and they put a lot of pressure and advocacy to change the situation in their own country. Isn't that something that could be like a model for European Union, where citizens get together and formulate very clearly what they want? Because if we are not, if the citizens not coming together, if the citizens do not clearly say in the European Union what they want, the politicians are not doing it. They are running after their so-called national sovereignty, after their national interest, and they think that is different from the one of the European Union, despite the fact that we just said that European Union has to speak with one voice to be recognized by the Chinese as a serious partner. So couldn't this, what the Taiwanese people, civil society have been doing, couldn't that be a model even for European Union?
I think you have already done that.
I don't see it because I see.
And I think the people are still very mobilized to do something like for the climate change and everything. And I think a very vital civil society, it's already existing here. And what might be improved, maybe the understanding of the other countries or cultures. Like, I mean, what we do today, I don't think a lot of people really know Taiwan and really know a lot of Taiwanese people or what they are thinking. And that's what also we are doing now. Yeah, we try to say it out loud what we are thinking. And I would say I'm not pessimistic. I think European people, I think they are still really admire the civil society here.
I'm curious. I have a question. Something like in the European Union, where people got together after all the wars and said, okay, enough is enough. Now we have to start a new age, working together. After the Second World War, that worked very well. I think right now it needs a little bit push from civil society. But is that something that would be possible in the area around Taiwan, that countries get together and say, let's stick together, let's try to build one common political system that everybody could adhere to and cooperate together? Is that something that is even thinkable?
I think the Europe is a little bit different, or like Asia is a little bit different than Europe.
The question is, would it be thinkable in the area around Taiwan, talking about Philippines, talking about the other countries in the area, to getting together and trying to build one political unity? Just say yes or no from your judgment.
I think it's not. They are not enough the power to push that because of the geopolitical distance. They are too big.
That was the reason. That was the reason why in Europe it started, because of the geopolitical difference, and we had enough of those differences, and then we decided we make a cut and we start from zero. So that is not cannot be the excuse, you know. That
but think about it. I mean, the French and Germany. Yeah, if you drive a car and if you drive too fast, then you are in France. Yeah, but it's not the case between Taiwan and Philippines. You need to take a plane. You need to book ahead, and that it's more difference.
Sorry, but between Portugal and Lithuania, you also have to take a plane.
But it took very long.
You will get lost on the German outlet.
But it took very long to get these both countries together. What I want to say, the second is also the political and the political systems are really too different right now. Still,
Pey-Fen, I think we have now 1.5 hours. We should come to an end. Just on my question, would something like that be possible? Sandy, you wanted to say something, and Wilhelmina, you can get prepared. I'll ask you as well what your opinion is on that.
Oh,
so
well,
please.
Actually, I just want to reply to you. Or previously, we said that do we think that it's possible European act as a whole? I think it's very complicated, seeing its diversity and different already within France or within Germany. I think they are different interests.
Okay, but we do have something that is called a European Union with a common European Parliament, with a common currency, with a common economic and social, and so on and so on. So there's a lot of things there, okay? And still national governments always act and behave, the French president, the German chancellor, everybody else, like they are the big kings in the world. In reality, they are not the kings in the world. Maybe we should cut the salary, then they will behave differently, or how does it look like?
Yeah, I wouldn't vote against.
Wilhelm, sorry, Sandy, but my question is, do you think that in the countries around Taiwan, something like a political union where people get together and say, okay, we create one political union, we have together certain aims that you want to achieve, we have certain values that you want to reach. Do you think something like that would be possible? Or do you think that is? I
think it's more practical already. We have more in the interest of economics. We have ASEAN and we have a CPPT. I think I can't recall the names. So I think it's more in terms of economic zones. I think for the Asian countries, for this bloc, it's more in the economic interest that we can form a unity. I think political wise, the interest is too diverse. I don't see that today we have this kind of things in place, or will that take place. I think it will take time because.
Okay, so you don't think it works. Wilhelmina, what do you think? Do you think that this is something that would be theoretically be possible as a goal to work for, or do you also think it's too complicated?
I think theoretically might be possible, but there is a lot of way and really a long way to go. And actually, the countries in around Taiwan, the development stage is really different. So,
yeah, but that's not an excuse. Even in Germany, when after the Second World War, Bavaria was a poor agriculture country, and now it is one of the richest within Germany. And we have differences. We have other countries in Europe that joined the European Union that were relatively poor when they joined.
But Southeastern Asian countries, politically, they are not very stable. Even look at Birmania, look at also Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. They have constantly some putsch.
Well, I could argue that there was a time in Italy, before Italy joined European Union and even after, when every half year you had a new government. That is not something that you would call politically stable. But nevertheless, we were able to cooperate together.
I would say that I don't see that in Asia it will come, because the military, I will say, presence is much stronger than that I have seen in European countries. Maybe some of them has gradually changed, but we do have a different historical background here in Europe.
Okay. Okay. Are there any questions from anybody or any remarks?
I think Francesco has raised his hand.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to say something on Asia, even of course I'm not from Asia. I wanted to say that to a certain extent will very much might depend on what will happen between Japan and Korea and South Korea, because these are the two countries which have probably the most stable political systems and the most stable democracies, with all the problems which may exist. On the other hand, Japan and Korea did not really go through a process of thinking thoroughly about the crimes which happened during the Second World War. This has been something which we Europeans have done, but between Japan and Korea, it's not happened. Because when you think about the regional unification, you need that somebody starts. It must start with somebody. It cannot be something which happens out of the blue. And in my view, the only ones which really could start are these two. And it's true what our friends from Taiwan say is that there is not such a process. So in this moment, Japan is not interested in this. Korea has its own problems because the country is divided into two. But I think this might be possible, perhaps one day. We don't know. That's and the other countries, of course, the Philippines. We know politically they are in a very extremely difficult position. So I think it might happen, but not very soon.
Thank you. One could argue if it is possible to unite a country behind a crook and criminal government like in Russia with a common aim to fight against another country, maybe there is a need for a common goal for everybody. And then this is how you can unite people. Jürgen Karl.
Okay, thank you. I have a very brief question, and that is what
you are aware that you want to come to an end now, right?
A very brief question, yes. What do you think? Who is going to win the elections in next January? The Kuomintang or the Minjindang or the Democratic Progress Party? And don't forget that Tsai Ing-wen's party has lost the local elections last November terribly. Thank you. I'm curious.
Thank you.
I think the suite has already answered, or that would be my answer too. That would be my wish and also my prediction.
Okay, thank you. And Wilhelmina?
Same.
And Sandy, what do you think?
We will all go back to Taiwan and vote to exercise our obligation, and it's our right to protect our countries. So we may the democracy win. I think this is all the Taiwanese wish, and all the people from the European, everyone wants it. So
exactly,
we should encourage people, come and support us, and then vote for democracy.
That's a very smart answer.
That's what we wish too. Okay. Yeah. That's what we wish to.
If I can.
Yes, Pey-Fen.
Yeah, if I can say something. The 2020, it was also a very difficult time for Taiwan. It was also the election of the president election. And that was very dangerous because we have somebody like strongly supported by China, who is more or less like Trump, yeah. And at that time we were really worried. But all the Taiwanese people here in Europe, we organized so many events, and we have mobilized so many people, and so many young people. They said even they need to change the plan for several times to go to Taiwan, they will go back to Taiwan for election. And I think that it's what's unique for us too. If it's dangerous, if it's very important, all the people were united and they will go back to Taiwan. Maybe just one remark, also to the question at the very beginning. Are we afraid of war? And I mean, when the Ukraine, just one sentence. when the Ukraine war has broken, and we have organized an event to talk about war, and we also worry about Taiwan. And I was thinking maybe the people will think, yeah, if the war broke out, maybe how should we get our family out of Taiwan? But that wasn't the case. Everybody who was in this event, they were asking, how can I go back to Taiwan if the war happened?
Okay.
And I think that is a statement.
That is a very clear statement. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you much for everybody participating. I think it was a great discussion. I was happy to have a real expert from Taiwan and not other people talking about Taiwan. That really makes a difference. We enjoyed that all very much. Thanks a lot. And I think we should continue talking to each other, looking at Taiwan, making events talk about it. And when you hear the upcoming elections, maybe that's a chance next time to do something and inform people about it, so they have a chance to understand what's going on during the election campaign in Taiwan. Okay? Thank you very much.
Klaus, we also want to thank you for supporting us and organize this event.
My pleasure. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Nice evening.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
So.
So.
Want to stay a bit?